The most important issue is concerned with the problem of funding. Social services receive different donations or grants from the government. However, these sums are not sufficient for the solution of all problems. The second most important issue consists in the huge spending. The money social services achieve is not enough for normal functioning. The third problem, affecting human services, is the lack of skilled and experienced employees. Scientists have recommended actions the government of Madagascar's recently elected president, Andry Rajoelina, should take to turn around the precipitous decline of biodiversity and help put Madagascar on a trajectory towards sustainable growth. Madagascar's protected areas, some of the most important for biodiversity in the world, have suffered terribly in recent years from illegal mining, logging, and collection of threatened species for the pet trade. The disease model remains dominant in the U.S. because of its stakeholders. First, the rehab industry, worth an estimated $35 billion per year, uses the disease nomenclature in a vast majority of its ads and slogans. Despite consistently low success rates, that's not likely to stop because it pulls in the cash. Second, as long as addiction is labeled a disease, medical insurance providers can be required to pay for it. If you have a chronic disease such as heart disease, diabetes, asthma, or back or joint pain, exercise can have important health benefits. However, it is important to talk to your doctor before starting an exercise routine. He or she might have advice on what exercises are safe and any precautions you might need to take while exercising. While blue is one of the most popular colors, it is one of the least appetizing. Blue food is rare in nature. Food researchers say that when humans searched for food, they learned to avoid toxic or spoiled objects, which were often blue, black, or purple. When food dyed blue is served to study subjects, they lose appetite. In an attempt to lure new students, leading business schools including Harvard, Stanford, the University of Chicago and Wharton have moved away from the unofficial admissions and prerequisite of 4 years work experience and instead have set their sights on recent college graduates and so-called early career professionals with only a couple years of work under their belt. There is too much information on this topic. Presentation skills are important to both universities and workplaces. Major sports on campus include rugby, soccer, and tennis. It is clear that the effects of climate change will damage the world economy. The framework will help pose more research questions systematically. The light can be seen as waves or particles. Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role. Students only can select one subject from biology and math. The library is located on the north side of the campus. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the other theories that can explain the variations in climate.
But when we move into working with communities, we have to recognise that the communities have to be the authority in their language. And actually, a woman in the class I'm teaching at Sydney at the moment, a Korean woman, expressed this very nicely, although she was talking about something else. She was distinguishing expertise from authority. And certainly linguists, because of our training, we do have expertise in certain very narrow areas of language. But we don't have the authority over what to do with that knowledge or what to do with other knowledge that the community produces. And I guess for me, the bottom line is languages are lost because of the dominance of one people over another. And that's not rocket science. It's not hard to work that out. But then what that means is, if in working with language revival we continue to hold the authority, we actually haven't done anything towards undoing how languages are lost in the first place. So in a sense, the languages are still lost if the authority is still lost.
But we can really thank the great exhibition of 1851 for giving us the world's premier taxi service. For it was going to this exhibition, this fabulous exhibition of inventions from all around the four corners of the empire, that the visitors were appalled, dismayed and vexed by their journeys to this exhibition, because the cabbies of the day in their horse-drawn carts were absolutely terrible, could not find their way to this exhibition. And so, at great public outcry, the London authorities set up the Public Carriage Office, which is an organisation that still exists. You can take a short walk to Penton Street up the road. And this Public Carriage Office took on the responsibility of licensing all major taxi drivers in London. All taxi drivers from 1851 onwards had to pass what is now known as the London Knowledge, this phenomenal knowledge of London. What is the London Knowledge? It's the ability to remember the 25,000 streets, how they're all interconnected, and know all the main arterial roads in and out of London. Cabbies need to know all this, plus 1,000 points of specific interest, cafes, bars, public offices. They need to know them all as part of their training.
So this is a kind of object that you're probably all familiar with when you hear the term robot. But I'm going to show you the very, very first robots. These were the very first robots. They were characters in a play in the 1920s called Rossum's Universal Robot. And the play was written by a Czech writer called Karel Čapek. And basically, these robots, people tend to think of robots as kind of cute, cuddly toys or, Hollywood depictions kind of devoid of politics. But the first robots were actually created and imagined in a time of absolute political turmoil. You just had the First World War, finished. That had a devastating impact across Europe. And so people were people were kind of reflecting on what does it mean to be human, what makes us human, those kind of questions. And this kind of context is what inspired Čapek to kind of write this play. And interestingly, these robots being human, they are actually in the play assembled on a production line, a bit like the Ford manufacturing production line. So even though they are human, they are assembled, and these robots are designed to labour, and that is their primary purpose in society.
We're thinking about this, and we're trying to say, all right, well, let's file a patent on this clicker. If I were to go to the patent office and say, all right, I want a patent on a clicker, period. The patent office would just laugh. You know, the clickers have been around for a while, presentation clickers have been around for a while, and so there'd be a 0% chance that we would actually get that. If we were to somehow convince the patent office that we should be able to get a patent on a clicker, period, it would, however, be incredibly valuable. Every single clicker that was made after this point would infringe. And when it infringes, maybe we take $1 or $2 each. That would add up to be a decent amount of money. On the other end of the spectrum, let's go to the million-word version. I go to the patent office and I say, I want a patent on this exact thing. And those million words describe every single radius, every single material, every single thing about this. And the patent office says, yeah, we've never seen that before. Go ahead and take it. Almost 100% chance of getting that patent. But the value of that patent would be close to 0.
What do you call your nephew's dad? What category do crystals, rubies, and diamonds belong to? Where do passengers wait for airplanes? What is the opposite of dangerous? We call numbers like 1, 3, 5 odd numbers, then what do we call numbers like 2, 4, 6? What do we call 1,000 years? What do we call a dream that is very frightening or unpleasant?
What is the joint connecting the foot to the leg? What do we call people who help others get insurance? Which button do we use to remove something from computer?
There is too much information on this topic. Presentation skills are important to both universities and workplaces. Major sports on campus include rugby, soccer, and tennis. It is clear that the effects of climate change will damage the world economy. The framework will help pose more research questions systematically. The light can be seen as waves or particles. Experience would be an advantage for this managerial role. Students only can select one subject from biology and math. The library is located on the north side of the campus. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the other theories that can explain the variations in climate. What do you call your nephew's dad? Answer: brother. What category do crystals, rubies, and diamonds belong to? Answer: gem. Where do passengers wait for airplanes? Answer: water. What is the opposite of dangerous? Answer: safe. We call numbers like 1, 3, 5 odd numbers, then what do we call numbers like 2, 4, 6? Answer: even numbers. What do we call 1,000 years? Answer: millennium. What do we call a dream that is very frightening or unpleasant? Answer: nightmare.
What is the joint connecting the foot to the leg? Answer: ankle. What do we call people who help others get insurance? Answer: insurance agents/insurance brokers. Which button do we use to remove something from computer? Answer: delete.